All right, let's dive into this, shall we? We're taking a deep dive today into The Five Resets by Dr. Aditi Nerurkar.
Oh,
And this is based on, that big stack of excerpts that you sent over
uh,
about stress and burnout and all that fun stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Well, it turns out you're not alone in feeling overwhelmed.
Mhm.
Dr. Nerurkar, she's a Harvard physician and researcher.
Okay.
Not only researches this stuff, but she hit a wall herself during her residency.
Oh, wow.
Talk about walking the walk,
Wow.
right?
Yeah,
So she
really gets it. And what's even more interesting is her book isn't just some ivory tower theory, you know.
right, right.
Dr. Nerurkar, she actually interviewed people all over the world,
Oh, wow.
and she found that stress, it looks and feels the same, whether you're in Boston or Bangalore.
Interesting.
It's kind of like a universal language of, oh,
That's so true. And this is where it gets really interesting.
Yep.
She calls it the stress paradox.
mm-hmm,
We all experience it,
mm-hmm.
yet it makes us feel totally isolated.
Yeah.
It's like, everyone's secretly freaking out, but nobody wants to admit it.
Right.
Do you ever feel that way? Like your stress is this dirty little secret.
Oh, all the time.
Right.
And it's no wonder, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Dr. Nerurkar, she dropped this stat in the book that blew my mind. 97% of people
Oh, wow.
have never even discussed stress management with their doctor.
That's crazy.
So no wonder we're all walking around feeling like we're the only ones, like drowning in
Right.
to-do lists and deadlines and all of that.
Okay, that's nuts. Clearly, there's a gap here between knowing that stress is a problem
Yeah.
and actually knowing what to do about it.
Totally.
So is Dr. Nerurkar, does she give us anything more
Well-
than, the usual take a bubble bath advice?
She goes way beyond that.
Okay.
The core of the book is what she calls these 5 resets.
Okay.
And they're not just about masking the symptoms, but like rewiring your brain and body to actually handle stress better.
Interesting.
It's like upgrading your operating system for the modern world.
Rewiring the brain. Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah.
But before we get into the how-to,
Okay.
break it down for me. What's actually going on in our brains when we're stressed? Like, is there an actual stress center that just goes haywire?
It's not quite that simple,
Okay.
but there are a couple of key players.
All right.
You've got your amygdala, which is like your brain's smoke detector, right?
Okay.
So any sign of danger, real or imagined that thing is, like blaring the alarm.
Got it.
And then you've got your prefrontal cortex,
Uh-huh.
which is trying to be the rational grown-up in the room.
So when we're stressed, it's like the smoke detector is going off 24/7.
And like that.
And our poor prefrontal cortex is just trying to figure out where the fire is.
Exactly. And the problem is
Yeah.
our brains, they evolved for those like short bursts of stress, like
Mhm.
running from that saber-toothed tiger, you know?
Right, right.
But in today's world, that alarm bell is triggered by emails, traffic, social media. It's nonstop.
Yeah.
Our brains aren't built for this kind of chronic stress.
So no wonder we feel fried.
Mm.
It's like we're constantly running from that tiger.
Mm.
But the tiger is like a never-ending PowerPoint presentation.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so our brains are basically glitching under pressure.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing this delayed stress response thing you mentioned,
Yeah.
this is even more unsettling, right?
It's this sneaky thing where sometimes we don't even feel the full weight of the stress
Right.
until after the stressful situation has passed.
Oh, wow.
Dr. Nerurkar, she talks about this patient she had, Raquel,
Mm-hmm.
who went through cancer treatment.
Oh, gosh.
And throughout the whole thing, she seemed fine.
Yeah.
But once treatment ended, boom, complete breakdown.
Wow, that's wild.
It's like her brain was in survival mode the whole time,
Right.
and only when she felt safe did the stress finally catch up.
So she connects us to the pandemic, right?
Research.
Like maybe we're all carrying around this delayed stress response
Yeah.
from the craziness of the past few years.
I mean, think about it. Lockdowns, uncertainty, social isolation.
Yeah.
It was a collective trauma.
Right.
It makes sense that our brains are still processing it all.
So you might be feeling fine now, but who knows what's lurking beneath the surface.
Exactly.
That's a little unnerving.
It's like a stress time bomb just waiting to go off.
Okay, well, thank goodness we have these 5 resets to help us disarm that bomb.
Right.
But do we have to do all 5 at once?
No.
Because honestly, even that sounds stressful.
She addresses that.
Okay, good.
She has this concept called the resilience rule of 2.
Okay.
And it turns out that focusing on just 2 changes at a time
Oh, wow.
is actually more effective
Okay, that's a relief.
for rewiring the brain
Why is that?
than trying to do everything at once.
Is there any science behind this less is more approach?
Absolutely. She cites this study from the 1960s called the Holmes-Ross stress scale.
Okay.
And it showed that even positive changes,
Interesting.
like getting married, starting a new job,
Yeah.
register as stress in the brain.
Oh, wow.
So if we try to change too much at once,
Yeah.
even good changes, it can backfire.
So it's about easing our brains into new habits, kind of like training for a marathon,
That's right.
instead of sprinting out of the gate and collapsing halfway through.
That's a good analogy.
I like that. Sustainable change, not a crash course.
And this ties into a fascinating distinction Dr. Nerurkar makes
Okay.
between hedonic happiness and eudaimonic happiness.
Hedonic happiness. Okay, I'm intrigued. Fill me in.
Think of it as that quick hit of pleasure you get from, say, a giant slice of chocolate cake.
Okay.
It feels amazing in the moment,
Yeah.
but it fades fast and leaves you wanting more.
Right.
So, fleeting, a little shallow.
Ah, so like that dopamine rush that comes with online shopping sprees or binge watching your favorite show?
Exactly.
Been there, done that, got the empty Amazon boxes to prove it.
Right.
Okay, what about eudaimonic happiness?
Now, eudaimonic happiness, that's a whole different ballgame. It's not about fleeting pleasure. It's about meaning and purpose.
Got it.
It's the kind of happiness that comes from pursuing your passions, contributing to something larger than yourself,
Right.
connecting deeply with others.
Yeah.
It's long-lasting and deeply fulfilling.
So it's less about chasing those quick hits of dopamine
Right.
and more about building a life that feels truly aligned with who you are and what you value.
Exactly.
But does the book actually tell you how to find that deeper happiness?
Yeah,
Because that sounds a lot harder than ordering another pizza.
it does.
Okay, good.
And this is where things get really practical.
Right.
Dr. Nerurkar shares this story of this guy named Ryan, a music executive who was completely burnt out.
Oh, wow.
He had all the trappings of success, money, status, you name it. But he was miserable.
Yeah.
And through the 5 resets, he ended up rediscovering his love of hiking and playing guitar.
Oh, that's great.
And these weren't just hobbies for him.
Yeah.
They reconnected him to a sense of purpose.
Right.
And they brought him genuine joy.
Wow, that's inspiring.
Yeah.
It's like he traded those fleeting pleasures for something way more meaningful and lasting.
Exactly.
So how does the book guide you towards making that kind of shift?
One of the tools she offers is what she calls the most goal.
The most goal.
Again, it's something motivating that you can actually achieve
Okay,
within 3 months.
got it.
So instead of just kind of wishing for happiness,
Right.
you're taking concrete steps to actually cultivate it.
I love that. It's like a roadmap to a more fulfilling life, but one that you get to design yourself.
Yeah.
This is all starting to click together now.
Yeah.
We've got this universal stress paradox.
Right.
Our brains glitching under constant pressure, and these 2 different types of happiness we can aim for.
Right.
Okay, so where do we even begin with these 5 resets?
Well, I think
I'm ready to start rewiring.
considering you sent in a stack of excerpts about tech and feeling overwhelmed, I think the second reset, finding quiet in a noisy world, might be right up your alley.
Okay, let's do it.
It's all about taming that tech monster that's constantly vying for our attention and stressing us out.
That sounds very familiar.
Right. Welcome back.
All right, so last time, we left off talking about taming the tech monster with the second reset, finding quiet in a noisy world.
Right.
Where do we even begin with that? I mean, it feels like our phones are practically extensions of our hands these days.
It's true.
Yeah.
That constant connection can be a major source of stress.
Right.
And it's not just the amount of time we spend online.
Mm-hmm.
It's the quality of that time, too.
Oh, interesting.
Dr. Nerurkar talks about this phenomenon she calls popcorn brain.
Popcorn brain.
Yeah. And it's something I think a lot of us can relate to.
Okay.
Have you ever felt that scattered, jumpy feeling after scrolling through social media for too long?
Oh, totally. It's like my attention span has been microwaved into oblivion. Like I start scrolling and suddenly an hour has vanished and I can't even remember what I was looking for in the first place. Is that what popcorn brain is all about?
Exactly. It's that feeling of being constantly stimulated, jumping from one thing to the next, never fully present.
Yeah.
And the problem is, it's exhausting for our brains.
Right.
It prevents us from reaching that state of deep focus and calm that we need to truly relax and recharge.
So it's not just about the time suck, it's actually changing how our brains function.
Yeah.
That's a little scary.
It can be.
Yeah.
But the good news is we have the power to change it.
Okay, good.
One of the first things Dr. Nerurkar suggests is creating what she calls a media diet.
A media diet.
Yeah.
So we're talking about being more intentional about the information we consume, just like we might be mindful of the food we eat.
Exactly.
Right.
Think of it this way. If you constantly fill your body with junk food,
Right.
you're going to feel sluggish and out of whack.
Yeah.
It's the same with your mind.
Got-
If you're constantly feeding it a diet of negativity, sensationalism, and mindless scrolling, it's going to affect your mood, your focus, your sleep,
Right. Everything.
everything.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So how do we actually put this media diet into practice?
Well,
Does it mean ditching social media altogether? Because let's be real, that's not happening,
of course not.
right?
It's not about deprivation. It's about finding a healthy balance.
Okay.
Dr. Nerurkar suggests things like setting specific times of day to check social media,
Got it.
turning off notifications,
Yeah.
maybe even deleting those apps that, are just sucking up your time and energy.
Right.
It's about reclaiming control instead of letting technology dictate your every move.
I like that. Taking back control, setting boundaries. It's
Oh.
almost like a digital detox, but one that you can actually stick with in the long run.
Exactly.
Because let's be honest, those all or nothing approaches, they usually backfire.
They totally do.
Yeah.
And remember that delayed stress response we talked about earlier?
Right. Right.
Well, constantly exposing yourself to negative news and drama online,
Yeah.
it can keep your brain in that heightened state of alert, even when there's no immediate threat.
So it's like you're constantly priming your brain for stress.
Exactly.
Without even realizing it.
And you might not even realize it.
Wow, I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the amount of time we spend online.
Yeah.
It's about the quality of the content we're consuming as well.
Exactly.
And the thing is, you have so much more control over that than you might think.
Yeah.
You get to choose what you feed your mind.
Exactly.
What you expose yourself to.
You have the power.
And believe me, your brain will thank you for it.
Absolutely.
This is making me rethink my whole social media strategy.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to unfollow those accounts that always leave me feeling drained
Right.
and start following ones that inspire me or make me laugh.
Exactly.
It's like giving my mind a much-needed cleanse.
And remember, it's not about being perfect.
Nope.
It's about making small, sustainable changes that work for you.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired to curate a more mindful online experience.
Good.
But let's move on to the third reset.
Okay.
Mastering your mind-body connection.
Yeah.
What is that all about?
This reset's about tapping into your body's wisdom,
Okay,
learning to listen to the signals it's sending you,
right.
and using those signals to regulate your emotions and reduce stress.
So it's like recognizing how our thoughts and emotions manifest in our physical bodies.
Exactly.
Like when you feel that knot in your stomach before a big presentation,
Right.
or your heart starts racing when you're feeling anxious.
Exactly. Our bodies are incredibly intelligent.
Yeah.
They're constantly giving us feedback,
Right,
but we often ignore those signals or try to push them down.
right, right.
But when we learn to tune in and listen,
Yeah.
we can use those sensations to our advantage.
Okay, I'm all for listening to my body more.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that?
Yeah.
Where do we even start?
One of the simplest but most powerful techniques that Dr. Nerurkar recommends
Okay.
is what she calls stop, breathe, be.
Stop, breathe, be.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's about taking just 5 seconds. Literally, you can count it on one hand to pause.
Okay.
Notice your breath
Mm-hmm.
and just be present in that moment.
5 seconds. Seriously.
5 seconds.
That seems almost too easy.
It is,
Okay.
but it works.
But I guess it's about creating those little pockets of mindfulness throughout the day, right?
Precisely. It's not about meditating for an hour every morning.
Right.
It's about weaving those tiny moments of presence into your everyday life.
Got it.
Dr. Nerurkar recommends finding a specific task you do regularly,
Okay.
like washing your hands,
Yeah.
waiting for the coffee to brew, or even just standing in line at the grocery store,
Mm-hmm.
and use that as your trigger to stop, breathe, be.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like creating these little mindfulness anchors throughout your day.
Mm.
And it doesn't have to be this big formal thing. It's just about pressing pause for a few seconds
Yeah.
and reconnecting with yourself.
Exactly.
And you'd be amazed at how much of a difference those little pauses can make.
Yeah, it can make a huge difference.
It's like hitting the reset button on your nervous system, giving your brain a chance to catch up and calm down.
Exactly.
Okay, stop, breathe, be. Definitely adding that to my repertoire.
Good.
What other techniques does Dr. Nerurkar recommend
So-
for tapping into that mind-body connection?
She talks a lot about the power of breath work,
Okay.
particularly diaphragmatic breathing
Right.
and the 4-7-8 breathing technique.
So diaphragmatic breathing.
Yeah,
That's the one where you breathe deep into your belly, engaging your diaphragm,
exactly.
instead of taking those shallow breaths from your chest, right?
That's right.
Okay, I think I get that.
And it's incredibly effective for calming the nervous system,
Okay.
because when we're stressed, our breath tends to become shallow and rapid,
Right.
which actually perpetuates that fight or flight response.
Uh-huh.
So it's like we're sending a signal to our brains that danger is imminent, even when it's not.
So it's like a vicious cycle.
Exactly.
We're stressed, so we breathe shallowly, which makes us even more stressed.
Exactly. But by consciously slowing down and deepening our breath,
Okay.
we can break that cycle and send a signal to our brains that it's safe to relax.
Yeah.
It's like flipping the switch from panic mode to peace mode.
Wow. I never realized how much power we have over our stress response just by changing our breathing.
It's pretty amazing, right?
Yeah.
And the 4-7-8 technique is another great tool
Okay.
for calming anxiety and promoting sleep.
Yeah.
It's a bit more structured than diaphragmatic breathing, but equally simple.
Got it.
You inhale for a count of 4, hold your breath for a count of 7, and exhale slowly for a count of 8.
Okay, I'm definitely going to try both of those. I love that these techniques are so simple and accessible.
Yeah.
We don't need any fancy equipment or expensive classes. We can do them anywhere, anytime.
Exactly. That's what makes the mind-body connection so powerful.
Right. It's always available to us. We just have to learn to tap into it.
Speaking of connecting with our bodies, Dr. Nerurkar also emphasizes the power of movement as medicine,
Yes,
which is her 4th reset.
it is.
All right. I'm ready to get moving. Tell me everything.
All right, so this reset highlights that exercise is so much more than just burning calories
Okay.
or building muscle.
Mm-hmm.
It's a powerful tool for managing stress, improving mood, and even boosting brain power.
Okay, but when I hear exercise, my mind immediately jumps to images of like intense workouts and sweaty gym sessions.
I hear you.
Do I really have to go that hard to reap the benefits?
No.
Because honestly, that just sounds like adding more stress to my already stressed out life.
And that's the beauty of this reset.
Okay.
It's not about pushing yourself to the limit.
Right.
It's about finding ways to move your body that you genuinely enjoy
Okay.
and can realistically incorporate into your life.
Okay.
Remember that 92-year-old woman we talked about earlier?
The one who out-hiked Dr. Nerurkar in the Himalayas while wearing flip-flops.
That's amazing. I love that story.
It's about finding what works for you.
Okay.
Whether it's dancing, swimming, gardening,
Right.
or even just taking a brisk walk in nature.
Okay, that's a relief. I'm much more likely to stick with something that feels good and doesn't add to my stress levels.
Exactly.
But I'm curious, how does exercise actually help manage stress? Like, what's happening in our brains and bodies when we move?
Well, for starters, exercise reduces cortisol,
Okay.
which is that pesky stress hormone that can wreak havoc on our bodies and minds.
Right.
It also boosts endorphins,
Okay.
which are those feel-good chemicals that have mood-boosting and pain-relieving effects.
So it's like a double whammy.
Right.
Reducing the bad stuff and increasing the good stuff.
Exactly, like those odds.
And beyond those immediate effects,
Yeah.
exercise actually changes the structure and function of our brains over time,
Interesting.
making us more resilient to stress in the long run.
So it's not just a temporary fix. Right. It's actually rewiring our brains to handle stress better.
Yeah.
I'm sold. Sign me up.
And here's another fascinating tidbit that might motivate you even more.
Okay.
Studies show that regular physical activity can actually reduce the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease.
Wow. Seriously. Now that's a benefit worth sweating for.
Yeah.
It's like exercise is not just good for our bodies and minds in the present moment. It's an investment in our future health as well.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm convinced. Time to dust off those walking shoes.
There you go.
But before we move on, I'm really intrigued by that gut-brain connection you mentioned earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what the 4th reset, nourishing your gut-brain connection, is all about?
It is.
Okay.
This reset dives into the fascinating world of the microbiome,
Okay.
which is that community of trillions of bacteria that live in our gut.
Trillions of bacteria living inside us.
The trillions.
That's kind of mind-blowing.
It's crazy.
But how do they actually affect our brains? It seems like a long way from our stomach to our head.
It might seem that way.
Yeah. But the gut and the brain are in constant communication,
Oh, wow.
sending signals back and forth through a complex network of nerves and chemicals.
Interesting.
And when our gut bacteria are out of whack,
Yeah.
it can actually trigger inflammation throughout the body, including in the brain.
Oh, no.
And this inflammation can lead to a cascade of negative effects, including mood swings, anxiety, brain fog, and even more serious conditions like depression.
So it's not just about digestive health, it's about mental health as well.
Exactly. The gut-brain connection is a two-way street.
Okay.
So if your gut is unhappy, your brain is likely to be unhappy too.
That's a little unsettling.
It can be.
So how do we keep those trillions of gut bacteria happy and healthy? Is it all about probiotics and yogurt?
Probiotics are definitely a key player.
Okay.
They help to replenish and diversify the gut microbiome,
Yeah.
crowding out the harmful bacteria and promoting a healthy balance.
Okay.
But it's also important to feed those good bacteria the stuff they love, which is where prebiotics come in.
Prebiotic. I've heard of those.
Prebiotics are a type of fiber that act like fertilizer for our gut bacteria,
Interesting.
helping them thrive and multiply.
So it's like we're gardening our gut.
Exactly.
Cultivating a diverse and thriving ecosystem that supports both our physical and mental well-being.
I love that analogy.
And Dr. Nerurkar emphasizes that reducing stress through those other resets we've talked about
Right?
can also have a positive impact on gut health.
Yeah,
When we're chronically stressed, our digestive system doesn't function as efficiently,
right.
which can further disrupt the gut microbiome and create a vicious cycle.
It does.
It's like everything is interconnected. By taking care of our minds and bodies through those other 4 resets, we're also supporting a healthy gut microbiome.
Exactly. It's a holistic approach to well-being,
Right.
recognizing that everything is interconnected.
Okay, I'm definitely feeling motivated to up my fiber intake and explore the world of fermented foods.
Good.
But before we wrap up this part of the deep dive, let's talk a little bit more about the Mediterranean diet. I've heard so much about it.
It's a classic for a reason.
And you mentioned that Dr. Nerurkar highlights it as a great example of a diet that supports both gut and brain health.
It is.
Okay.
And it's not just about weight loss or heart health.
Right.
It's about nourishing your body and mind with whole, unprocessed foods
Got it.
that promote a healthy gut microbiome and reduce inflammation throughout the body.
I love that it's not a diet in the traditional restrictive sense,
Right.
but more of a lifestyle approach to eating.
Exactly.
It emphasizes abundance and enjoyment, not deprivation.
That's right.
It's about celebrating delicious food,
Yes.
savoring each bite, and appreciating the connection between what we eat and how we feel.
It's all about fresh fruits and vegetables,
Mm-hmm.
whole grains,
Yeah.
legumes, healthy fats like olive oil and nuts,
Okay.
and lean protein sources like fish and chicken.
And it's been shown to have numerous health benefits, right? Everything from reducing the risk of heart disease and cancer to improving cognitive function and mood.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's truly a holistic approach to well-being,
Wow.
and the research continues to reveal its incredible benefits.
Okay, the Mediterranean diet is officially going on my list of things to explore. But for now, let's move on to the 5th and final reset. Bring your best self forward.
Okay.
What does that entail?
This reset is all about recognizing and counteracting our inner critic,
Okay.
that voice inside our heads that can be particularly harsh, especially during times of stress.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating self-compassion
Right.
and learning to speak to ourselves with kindness and understanding.
Ah, the inner critic. We all know that voice.
Right.
And it can be brutal.
It can be.
What are some of the techniques Dr. Nerurkar recommends for silencing that negative self-talk?
So one of the most powerful techniques she suggests is expressive writing.
Oh, interesting.
Have you ever tried that?
I haven't, but I've heard about it.
All
It's
right.
basically journaling, right?
Yeah.
But with a specific focus on processing difficult emotions.
Exactly. It involves setting aside 15 to 20 minutes for 4 consecutive days
Okay.
to write about your deepest thoughts and feelings related to a specific emotional issue that's been bothering you.
Got it.
And the key is to just let it flow out.
Okay.
No editing, no censoring,
Right.
no judgment.
Just getting it all out on paper,
Yeah.
letting the words pour out without holding back.
Exactly.
It sounds incredibly cathartic, but does it really work?
The research is pretty remarkable.
Okay.
Studies show that expressive writing can actually reduce stress levels,
Oh, wow.
improve mood,
Yeah.
boost immune function.
Wow, that's amazing. It's like giving those bottled up emotions a healthy outlet
Exactly.
instead of letting them fester inside.
And it's not just about venting or complaining.
Right.
It's about processing those difficult experiences,
Yeah.
making sense of them, and
Yeah.
ultimately finding a way to move forward with greater clarity and peace of mind.
Okay, I'm sold. I'm definitely going to give expressive writing a try. And in addition to expressive writing,
Yeah.
Dr. Nerurkar also emphasizes the importance of cultivating gratitude.
She does.
Gratitude, that makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
when we're focused on the good things in our lives.
Yeah.
It's harder to get bogged down in negativity and self-criticism.
It is.
But how do we actually cultivate gratitude?
I-
Especially when we're feeling stressed and overwhelmed.
One of the simplest but most effective ways is to keep a gratitude journal.
A gratitude journal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Each day, simply write down a few things you're grateful for, no matter how small.
Right.
It could be something as basic as a warm cup of coffee,
Right.
a sunny day, a good laugh with a friend,
Yeah.
or even just the fact that you woke up breathing this morning.
So it's about training our minds to notice and appreciate the good things
Exactly.
instead of dwelling on the negative.
It's like a mental reset button,
Yeah,
focusing on abundance instead of scarcity.
I like that.
And the more you practice gratitude,
Yeah.
the more natural it becomes.
Yeah.
It's like building a muscle of appreciation that gets stronger over time.
I like that analogy.
And you know what? It actually changes the structure of your brain,
Oh, wow.
making you more receptive to positive emotions.
So it's not just about feeling better in the moment. It's
Mhm.
actually rewiring our brains for greater happiness and resilience.
Exactly.
I'm loving this.
And to round out this fifth reset,
Okay.
Dr. Nerurkar introduces a really intriguing concept called living a lifetime in a day.
Living a lifetime in a day.
Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't.
Okay, so it might sound like a lot to pack into 24 hours,
Right.
but it's actually a beautiful and surprisingly practical way to cultivate a sense of balance and fulfillment in your life.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that each stage of life, childhood, work, love, community, legacy, and wisdom, has something unique and valuable to offer.
Okay. I'm intrigued. How do we actually live a lifetime in a day?
It's all about intentionally incorporating elements of each life stage into your daily routine. For example, bringing in a bit of playfulness from childhood could look like spending time in nature,
Okay.
engaging in creative activities,
Right.
or simply allowing yourself to be silly and have fun.
Yeah.
Nurturing the love stage might involve spending quality time with loved ones, expressing affection,
Right.
or doing something kind for someone else.
I love that. It's like creating a tapestry of experience, drawing on the richness of each stage of life to enrich your present moment.
Exactly.
And by doing so, you not only reduce stress and boost well-being, but also cultivate a deeper sense of meaning and purpose in your life.
That's the idea.
This is blowing my mind. It's like a whole new way of looking at time and how we spend it.
It is.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Analytic tech, the mind-body connection, movement as medicine, nourishing the gut-brain axis, and bringing our best selves forward.
That's a lot.
What a journey. Before we move on to part 3 of this deep dive, what's one question our listeners should ponder as they reflect on these first 4 resets?
That's a great question. I think the most important question to ask yourself is,
Okay.
which of these resets resonates with you the most right now?
Right.
And what's one small, concrete step you can take today to start incorporating it into your life?
That's a perfect question to sit with.
Yeah.
And remember, progress over perfection.
Always.
Even the smallest step in the right direction is a victory worth celebrating.
It is.
We'll be back soon to wrapping this deep dive with a closer look at self-compassion and the power of the tortoise mindset.
Welcome back. It's time to wrap up our deep dive into the 5 resets
Yeah.
and how they can help, navigate stress and create a life that feels more like you.
Right.
But there's one concept that Dr. Nerurkar keeps coming back to
Yeah.
that I think ties everything together beautifully.
Mm.
And it's something that personally I need to hear on a daily basis.
What's that?
The tortoise mindset.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Tortoise mindset.
It's just a simple idea,
Right.
but so profound.
It really is.
It's about embracing a slower,
Yeah.
more sustainable,
Approach to change
Right.
instead of trying to overhaul everything at once.
which, let's be honest,
Right.
usually leads to burnout and giving up.
Yeah.
It's about taking those small, consistent steps that ultimately lead to lasting transformation.
It's like that saying, slow and steady wins the race.
That's it.
You know, it's so easy to get caught up
Yeah.
in the hustle culture, the
Yeah.
need to do more, be more, achieve more, faster, faster, faster.
All the time.
Right.
Yeah.
But the tortoise mindset, it reminds us that it's okay to slow down,
Yeah.
to be patient with ourselves and focus on progress, not perfection.
It's such a powerful antidote to that kind of all or nothing mentality
Yeah.
that so many of us get trapped in.
It is, yeah. Like, if we're not doing everything perfectly,
Right.
then we're failing.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
The tortoise mindset
Yeah.
gives us permission to be human,
Yeah.
to embrace the messy, imperfect journey of growth and change.
Totally.
But let's be real. It's hard to embrace that slow and steady approach.
I know.
When we're feeling stressed and overwhelmed,
Yeah.
our instinct is often to try to fix things quickly, right? To
Mm-hmm.
find that magic bullet solution that will make everything better overnight.
Of course, yeah.
And that's where self-compassion comes in.
Ah, yes, self-compassion.
All right.
Such a key ingredient.
Yeah, Dr. Nerurkar emphasizes that being kind to ourselves, especially during times of stress,
Right.
is essential for building resilience
Yeah.
and navigating those inevitable challenges that life throws our way.
Totally.
The self-compassion thing is something I struggle with big time.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to be critical of myself
Hmm.
than to offer myself that same kindness and understanding I would extend to a friend.
Yeah.
Like, why is it so hard to be your own best friend?
Yeah, it's such a common struggle.
Yeah.
And it's often ingrained in us from a young age.
Right.
You know, we're taught to strive for perfection, to achieve, to succeed.
Right.
And then when we fall short, that inner critic pipes up, telling us we're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough.
Ugh, that inner critic, it can be brutal.
It can be brutal.
But Dr. Nerurkar argues that self-criticism actually makes stress worse.
Right. It does.
It's like adding fuel to the fire.
When we're constantly berating ourselves, it triggers that fight or flight response,
Yeah.
keeping our brains in that heightened state of alert, even when there's no real danger present.
Right.
It's like we're living in a perpetual state of emergency,
Exactly.
which is exhausting and ultimately counterproductive.
So by being kinder to ourselves,
Yeah.
we're actually calming our nervous systems
Right.
and creating a more supportive internal environment.
It's like giving our brains a much-needed break
Exactly.
from that constant barrage of negativity.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And self-compassion isn't about
Yeah.
denying our struggles or pretending everything is perfect.
Right.
Right.
It's not about toxic positivity.
It's about acknowledging our difficulties with kindness and understanding.
So it's about meeting ourselves where we are with all our imperfections.
Yeah, cool.
And offering ourselves that same unconditional love and acceptance we would offer a loved one.
It's a beautiful thing.
But how do we actually cultivate self-compassion?
Yeah, it's a good question.
It sounds great in theory, but when that inner critic is screaming in my ear, it's hard to even hear that voice of kindness.
One technique Dr. Nerurkar suggests is to talk to yourself,
Okay.
as you would talk to a close friend who is going through a difficult time.
Okay.
Imagine your friend comes to you
Yeah.
feeling stressed and overwhelmed.
Right.
Would you berate them for their struggles?
No.
Or would you offer them compassion, support, and a listening ear?
I would totally offer support and encouragement. It's amazing how we're often so much harder on ourselves
I know.
than we are on the people we care about.
It's like we have this double standard for compassion.
We do.
Right.
But by consciously choosing to speak to ourselves
Mhm.
with that same kindness and understanding we would offer a friend,
Right.
we can start to shift that inner dialogue
Yeah.
and create a more loving
Yeah.
and supportive internal environment.
It's like becoming our own best friend,
Right.
offering ourselves that same unconditional love and acceptance.
And it's not about ignoring our problems or pretending everything's okay.
Right.
It's about acknowledging our struggles with kindness and understanding
Exactly.
and recognizing that we're all works in progress.
Yeah.
Perfectly imperfect
Yeah.
in our own unique ways.
Beautifully said.
Right.
It's about embracing our humanness.
And here's the really cool part. Self-compassion actually has physiological benefits as well.
Oh, it does.
Studies show that it can lower cortisol levels, reduce inflammation, and even boost our immune system.
Yeah.
Wow, so it's not just about feeling better emotionally.
Right.
It's actually improving our physical health as well.
Exactly.
So self-compassion is truly a superpower, and it's a key ingredient in building resilience and navigating the inevitable ups and downs of life.
Absolutely.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
It is.
We're not going to wake up one day and suddenly be perfectly self-compassionate.
No.
It's about practice, about making a conscious effort to choose kindness even when it's hard.
I love that.
So it's all about embracing that tortoise mindset, right? Slow and steady, progress over perfection.
There you go.
And it's about celebrating those small victories along the way. Like
Sure.
maybe today I'll catch myself in a moment of self-criticism and choose to offer myself a little bit of grace instead.
There you go.
That's a win in my book.
It is a win.
This deep dive into the 5 resets has been such a gift.
It has.
I feel like I have a whole new toolkit for managing stress
Yeah.
and creating a life that feels more aligned with my values and who I truly am.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Likewise.
And I hope our listeners feel empowered to embark on their own journey of stress management and self-discovery.
Absolutely. So to our listener out there, remember Dr. Nerurkar's powerful words. you are the sky. Everything else is just the weather.
Beautiful. I love that.
Right.
Until next time, stay curious, be kind to yourself, and keep embracing that tortoise mindset.
Thanks for joining us. We're out small.